Alright, so in this video, we are going to write a super simple autonomous mode. Alright, so you should already have your hardware programmed. I've declared my motors here in the hardware bot code. I then map my motors with their names on the phone. I set their powers to 0, and for this one, my motors are running without an encoder. Now, if you go to the FTC robot controller code and go into Java and look in external samples, you're going to see that there's other examples that we can copy and use. So we're going to use the pushbot auto drive by time linear. So you're going to copy that and then paste that into your team code. Now you always want to give your autonomous modes or teleop modes descriptive names. I'm going to call this testbot simple autonomous. You may want to get more specific than that with your autonomous. Alright, so we need to change this op mode, and at the top of this file we import code that we need just like many of the other files. Then we have some comments, and then we see we have a place to name our autonomous mode. So my robot's called testbot, and I want to give it a descriptive name because this is the name that will show up in the phone, and it's a simple autonomous program. And then change group to the name of my robot. Next, we see this code that is disabled, so we need to comment that out or delete it. Next, we declare the class. That's the name of the op mode. Next, we gotta change this code here that refers to the name of the robot. Mine's called the hardware testbot, and that's going to create a robot that's equal to a new hardware testbot. So that has to be referring to my robot. Now I'm going to delete some code that I'm not going to use. So I'm going to delete these variables. Then I'm going to go inside my run op mode. Leave that, we need that. This is where we actually do the code for the op mode. We do need to initialize the hardware. We do need to keep the wait for start because we got to wait for the play button to be pressed. And then I'm going to delete all these lines of code so that I can write my own code. Alright, so the plan for my autonomous mode is that my robot will drive forward first. And to do that, all 4 motors are going to have to drive forward. Now I want to make a left turn, and to make a left turn, my right motors need to go forward and my left ones need to go back. That'll turn my robot. And finally, I'm going to drive all my motors forward to drive forward and park in some sort of parking spot. So first, to add a comment so I don't forget that I'm trying to drive forward. Then I'm going to grab my robot by typing robot and then choose my motors and set their power. And your motor power can go anywhere from -1 to 1. A motor power of -1 goes backwards, a positive motor power will go forwards, and a motor power of 0 will have it stop. So I'm driving forward, and so I need all of my motors to be set to drive forward. And I'm going to use a full power of 1. To save myself some work, I'm going to copy it and then retype the name of the motor. So I've got all 4 motors, and I'm setting all their powers to +1, so the robot will drive forward. Now we haven't told the robot how long to drive forward, so we're going to use a sleep, and we're going to tell it to sleep for 1,000 milliseconds. That's equal to 1 second. And we use the code sleep so that the robot won't do any other instructions for 1 second. It's just going to keep the power at 1 and then not do anything else. The next step I said was to make the robot turn to the left. So I'm going to put in a comment so that if I have to read this code later, I won't forget. And then to make my life easier, I'm just going to copy my code from before. When I copy the 4 set powers there, and then I want to change what the power is going to be. Remember, I said that for the robot to turn left, the left motors need to go backwards. So I'm going to make those negative. And the right motors must go forward, so those are positive. And notice I'm not going full power, I'm only going half power. 5/10 is the same thing as half. Then I have to put my sleep code. I'm not going to sleep for a full 1 second. I'm going to sleep for 750 milliseconds. You're going to have to play with the time that you have the robot sleep. If you're not driving far enough, increase the time. If you're driving too far, decrease the time. The final step is for my robot to drive forward to the parking spot. So put in another comment, drive the robot forward. And then we're driving forward just like above, so I'm going to copy that code. And so I'm going to have all my powers there be a power of 1, and I'm going to sleep for 1 second before I attempt to park the robot. And to park, I need to stop the motors. As I said before, to stop the motors, set their power to 0. Don't give them any power. And then we're pretty much finished. You notice that there's some telemetry code at the end, and then there's a final sleep. Now, download your code for testing.